Hello and welcome to Utah Tech Leads. We are here with Chad Jardine. How are you doing today, Chad?
I'm doing great. Thanks, Liz.
So tell us a little bit about yourself and your company. Let's start with you. Let's kind of start at the beginning. I know that you were originally born in Seattle, but your parents came to their senses and moved you back here to raise you, right?
They returned me to Zion. Now, my family had been in several generations in Washington, and then we moved to Utah. So I don't think I told you this part of my story. We actually were on our way to California because there was a building boom in the 80s, and my dad was in the building supply business, and we stopped in Utah to visit my uncle, his brother, and we just never made it to California. So we ended up here kind of by accident, but it's been a great place to live and grow up and raise my own family. So I'm really glad that it worked out that way.
It always amuses me. I thought Utah was just going to be kind of a stop on my plan across the country, and it definitely was not. This is home base now. So this is where we are and where we want to be. So tell us a little bit about your company. It's CMO Zen, correct?
Yes, so I'm a career marketer. I've spent my career leading marketings for early stage companies. And a couple of years ago, I started CMO Zen, which is a boutique fractional CMO firm. We do fractional CMO services for companies, usually early stage, pre-Series B, or say south of 30 or 40 million in annual revenue. And so our reps are just in getting marketing stood up and functioning, getting that kind of repeatable marketing and sales motion going for companies in that stage.
So I love the idea of fractional work. I think it's absolutely fantastic. Tell me your kind of perspective on fractional. A lot of people talk about it as like, oh, well, I work for this client or I work for this client. But I feel like the people who work in the space of being a fractional see anything have a kind of a different perspective on that. Tell us a little bit about that.
Yeah, well, I mean, no surprise. I'm a big fan of the fractional model also, but I think fractional is evolving. I think it is. We have some really kind of entrenched CFO firms in Utah that have been doing great fractional work for over a decade, and so they've pioneered the space for other fractionals. I think other disciplines are more nascent when it comes to fractional work, but they're finding some similar things, which is that on a fractional basis, you can deliver value that's more proportionate to what a company's budget is. It's usually not that they need less of that service. Like, I do fractional CMO work, and really nobody needs a fractional CMO. They need a full-time CMO, but they can't afford one. And
Yeah.
so fractional
Yeah.
is about accessibility as much as anything else, making that kind of talent and experience accessible to companies that otherwise were just out in the cold. They couldn't afford to hire full time, and so they were out of luck. I also think that in the evolution of fractional, we're breaking trail and kind of pioneering a new space for how startups grow, and that there's a way that we're reinventing the model of, it's like, okay, how do I collect the talent that I need to execute at these early stages when everything is hard, the budget is always super tight, and so the fractionals out there are they're what that pioneering looks like is, hey, we're reinventing how efficiently we can get from 0 to 1 in all of these areas, and how efficiently we can take a company to being ready to scale things up. Like the process of scaling things that's ground that's pretty well trodden, and people that specialize in that, it's like, okay, you need to bring me something where A, B, C, and D are validated and proven, and then we can take that and scale that. But how do you get A, B, C, and D validated? You need kind of equally sophisticated approaches for how to get that done with a shoestring budget in order to get to that other stage. And I think that's also why so many companies fail in these early stages, is because they just never get those areas buttoned up. And I think fractional is helping more companies be able to nail those early stages.
Yeah, it's a really interesting process where most founders, they have an idea or a solution or a fix or something, and then they try to wrap their arms all the way around what it looks like to build a full C-suite, whether or not they have the budget. And sometimes it can be a great product or a great service, but trying to encompass everything that people think of when they think of a traditional company and not really thinking of a startup company, that can be the final nail in the coffin for something that could have been really fantastic.
Yeah, absolutely. And you think about what does that translate into? Like an expensive C-suite translates into a high burn rate. And even though 2024, I think is a little better than 2023 was in terms of the tech community and how volatile it is for businesses and availability of capital and things like that, it's still not great. It's still a tough road to hoe out there. And so having being able to build your company without the insane burn rate that comes with hiring a full C-suite is really an advantage.
Absolutely. So talking about that, the building a company, tell us how you built your company. Like what inspired you to take the leap to become an actual founder, and how did you manage to kind of build that up from the ground?
Yeah, good question. So and also my company isn't a tech company, so it's a little different. Like our clients have a different journey than I've had. But there were a couple of things that I was thinking about as I got ready to start CMO Zen. By and large, the path that's most common for fractional CMOs is to work as a solo fractional, and I didn't want to do that. Maybe I was just too timid or whatever. But there were people I wanted to work with, and I wanted to kind of build something that was more team based than just being a solo. So from the outset, I had my co-founder Mark Miller and some other people that were close to me that were willing to kind of jump in and lend a hand, and that made a huge difference. It allowed us to have a little bit more inoculation. Like clients do come and go in any type of consulting model, and so it allowed us to be able to kind of continue to focus on building the business as clients. We've actually kept clients longer than I kind of anticipated, but we still have clients come and clients go, and so we were able to kind of diversify against that by building a bigger team, and also it gave us the kind of freedom and flexibility to take the learnings of, like right now our team has led marketing for individually over 60 companies, and our team's like half a dozen CMOs, right? But that's a lot of institutional knowledge to try to embed in our playbooks, and we're essentially building algorithms. We're building stacked decisions that have the experience of all of these people's different work history, and so that's part of the key to how I'm building CMO Zen is pulling in the experience of that team, because no one person has done everything, and like really if you take any two or three competent people can beat like a rock star one person.
Yeah.
And so that's been kind of our philosophy. I think Charles de Gaulle said something like that. No one person is as smart as all of us.
Yeah, absolutely. Sometimes groupthink can be scary, but most of the time it ends up with something absolutely beautiful, I think. But I am honestly an optimist when it comes to human nature. So we'll see how that turns out over the next couple of decades or whatever. Yeah, so there's some really interesting perspective that I think that you have, especially when you're talking about fractional CMO work, and specifically some of the expertise that you just discussed. There's the fractional CMO expertise that you have in the marketing field, but how do you feel like your CMOs are able to impact new teams as a whole or young teams as a whole? Do you think that even though they might be fractional, because of their great experience, they're able to influence and impact other leaders in the organizations that they work with to become better and to think differently about things?
Yeah, I mean, so one of the real advantages. Let me compare this to sometimes you have an early company, and I've been this hire, so I feel the pain of it, where they stretch. They're like, okay, we're going to hire a marketing hire. This person is, we're going to go big or go home. We're going to stretch, and this person comes in, and they're expecting this person to deliver, like 3 or 4 or 5 people. And part of the reason it's like, okay, why did we have to stretch the budget? Why was a full-time CMO expensive? It's like, well, a big part of being a full-time CMO is being a manager.
Yeah.
If you're a small company and you don't have a team internally that you want to turn this person loose on, like you're wasting a lot of their effort. They come in, it's like, all right, let me at the team, because the reason why they're highly paid is because they can leverage the team. They can get more output out of more people in the team. And if you don't have that dynamic, then essentially you now have an overpaid individual contributor. And that's not even their strength. They can probably do a lot of individual contributor work, but they probably aren't as good as somebody who's, say, doing graphic design as their full-time gig, doing RevOps or HubSpot or something like that as their full-time gig, doing PR or SEO. Any of the specialties of an individual contributor on that one discipline, they'll probably outperform somebody that's very experienced. So one of the other advantages is if you go in fractional and you have a junior team, like I really think that's the dynamic duo. If you hire a fractional senior person and you have one or two junior people in-house, I think that outperforms just about any other model. We'll see. Ask me again in a few years if I still think that, but that's where my head's at now. And part of the reason is because you bring in, like, fractional gigs are usually not permanent. They're a bridge to something else. So I'm going to hire fractional until I can afford to hire full-time, or I'm going to hire fractional because maybe my full-time person is on maternity. Maybe my full-time person left or quit or got fired, and I need to bridge the gap to somebody else that's full-time. I need to just keep the wheels on the bus. But one of the things that is permanent is the mentorship of junior team members. So you have this junior team, and they're going great. They're less expensive, but not because they're less, not because of their intrinsic value. It's just because they're earlier in their career. So you have these really great people with a lot of aptitude and a lot of ability. And if you bring them and pair them up with a senior person, the senior person can magnify their growth. And then when the contract ends with the senior person, right, the fractional goes out or you're hired full time, your internal team has all leveled up. And so the mentorship of that, the value of that endures inside the organization, long past the fractional gig.
Absolutely. I think that there's a really interesting perspective there where we can grow the most when we see our talents and our specialties reflected in other people. And being able to work with somebody who might be in a fractional position at that moment, it kind of allows you the clarity, I would say, to kind of drill down and figure out not only what the best for the company is, but what you perform best at as well. And it gives you that reflective nature that so many people are lacking, especially when you're building a company. You've got your head down, you're just grinding away, and sometimes we need that break or that external force, I would say, to kind of look at us and tell us what we're missing, or look at us, tell us what we're great at, and then to build a plan based off of those talents, for sure.
Yeah, I agree. And for the more junior team members, it's not like the value of experience is actually measured in years. It's not like every year or every hour is worth the same. If I'm a junior team member and I've been tasked to go out and manage events for the company's doing trade shows and conferences, and it's my job to figure those out. If I have somebody come in and say, well, here's how I've done it, 100 times before, that junior person levels up in an instant versus, okay, well, I spent 3 years doing these events the hard way, and now I'm experienced and figured out these lessons. Like they can learn and level up much faster if they have some kind of mentor.
Absolutely. Yeah, totally. I hear and feel that every single day. Mentorship is incredibly, incredibly important. And I think you and your company are able to pop in and provide that in ways that so many other individuals might not, at, to be completely frank, a significantly less cost to the company. So, you're doubling your bets there. It ends up working out really well. Do you have any favorite stories or favorite clients that you don't have to share any names or specifics, but anything that you want to share with our audience?
Oh man, one of my favorite things about this type of work is the variety of clients. So I think it's wise to kind of focus on where you work best. And I don't know that we've done that spectacularly well, although we have fintech clients and edtech clients, some medical device, and then also most of our B2C work is not like direct to consumer or e-commerce. Most of it is service-based businesses, so financial planning firms and wealth managers and service providers and consultants, design firms, things like that. But it's I'll just give you a quick rundown of kind of types of client. These are mostly local companies. Really interesting things. A company trying to increase access to CAR T cell therapy, which is a cancer treatment. Really, really fascinating. Another company is that's doing fertility treatments. They're focused on male infertility. They're based right here in Utah, doing amazing things. We have another company that's doing one company that is focused on transfer students at universities. So the transfer system is a mess. I don't know how much of this you know, but probably you know somebody that transferred from like a junior college to a university. A bunch of their credits didn't transfer. Basically, they gave away years of their life and thousands of dollars and get nothing. These guys are working to make transfers make more sense and help students understand what's going to transfer when they start at the get-go. Another ed tech company that's changing simulations. I don't know if you had to do any simulations in college, but these guys are kind of revamping how they work with simulations. Another company does drone technology. They do technology for how to house autonomous drones for both security and public safety issues. We've got a company that does some amazing outsourced product team work, focused mostly in cybersecurity and construction, interesting enough. So that they're taking in-house developed software and helping people, either level that up or be extra bandwidth for their teams. Anyway, I could keep going, but lots of fun clients.
It has to be fun because you do get to kind of pick and choose a little bit and decide like what you're most inspired by and what excites you. And I think that is one of those aspects of work that not a lot of people get. Most people punch in, punch out, they do exactly what they're trained to do, but you really get to have fun with it in ways that I think other people don't.
I think that's true. I think also maybe our team is like, I'm a big believer that great marketers are great at understanding business. It's that understanding what makes the business tick, what's its path to revenue, and things like that. And I think all of our team loves that. If there's anything that's special about the CMO Zen group, come up to speed on what the mechanics are of a business really quickly. And then afterwards, like the founders and what they're doing, it's easy to fall in love with what's happening. You get these men and women, they're deeper in it than we will ever be, and they're really amazing in their lanes, and changing the world in a really positive way. And we get to come in and get to play a part in that story, and it's a ton of fun. It's really great.
Absolutely. Well, Chad, thank you so much for your time today. And thank you to CMO Zen for having you guys out there and doing the good work that is necessary for all of us to continue to succeed. So we thank you so much, and we look forward to hearing from you soon.
You're very welcome. We're huge fans of Utah Tech Leads. We think you guys are doing awesome stuff.